and welcome to Fortnite Report. I am your host tonight, Anvil, and I'm in my sexy beast mode. That being said, technical difficulties, a couple things. I know the word second spelled wrong. I'm going to fix that. And you can barely see our logo, but that'll get fixed as well. I'm going to try to eliminate some of this glare off my eyes. I'm hoping that'll work. So give me 1 second. Okay, so July 11th, 2023, Fortnite Report. There is a lot of things going on right now that you are being distracted. And the one of the big things you're using to distract you right now is all this hoopla bloopla about the Sound of Freedom movie. And I talked about this before. I think I talked about this on the free Radio Free Anvil. But uh, Sound of Freedom is a movie based on true events, and we always see Hollywood do that, about child sex trafficking. And the left, the mainstream media, we're going to call it MSM, mainstream media, has come out and denounced this movie, said it's just a right wing hype, all this other craziness. But the Sound of Freedom was a true event that back in the day, MSM, when it was before it was MSM NBC, reported on this actual event where special ops went in, raided basically, and I believe it was in Colombia, with the Colombian help, raided a what was going to be a sex party where they had children and not yet legal adults, uh, 16, 15, 14, uh, in a big grass shack cabana, giving them drugs and candy and alcohol and getting them prepped and ready because they were scared. They didn't know what's going on, but they figured the hype would help. Um, so this event is actually captured by the mainstream media back in the day, just to be denounced now. Um, so some of the things they're doing besides mainstream media calling this out as not as an over exaggeration of child trafficking. Uh, it it's a lot of places. It's only been in theaters a week or less. Locally, one of my local theaters, it ran exactly 1 week, Tuesday to Tuesday. The only time you could see this movie was either at the 12 o'clock showing or the 3 p.m. showing. Uh, I work for a living for the most part. There was no way I was going to make those shows. And had I only known it was going to be 1 week, I might have tried a little harder to get out there that first weekend. But hey, it was the 4th of July weekend. And, it was actually after the 4th of July weekend. I don't want to be uh, fact checked on this. So they were given the worst time slots. There were subtle harassments in the theaters were reported. Uh, the theater that the movie was playing in, the actual theater, not the main building, but the actual theater part, where you would sit and watch the movie, had temperature issues, reports of it being very hot, very humid, very uncomfortable, uh, technical difficulties. Sometimes your money would get refunded, sometimes it wouldn't. But the Sound of Freedom, I think this is important, but please keep in mind that child trafficking has been going on for decades, decades. And because uh, our media and to a certain extent members of our government hate to see a disaster go to waste, they are using the announcement of this movie to create distractions. And the distractions are from things that other things that are going on at the moment in the country, in the world, with our people, for our people. So let's get into that now. DOJ, Department of Justice, and we'll call it Biden's Department of Justice, just indicted Gal Lafette, a whistleblower on the Biden family scandals. He is a formerly Israeli army officer and part of a Maryland think tank that has been on the run for weeks. And I believe they just caught him, and he is being indicted for I'm not sure what, but he is a whistleblower, and he's whistleblowing on Joe Biden and his family and the things they've been doing. And once again, we have weaponized our law enforcement to jail its opposition. Again, Fortnite Report, I'm telling you things. I hope that you go and research this as well. Be weary of Google. Go with something else that might be a little more open-minded. DuckDuckGo comes to mind, but there might be others that is not going to direct your searches away from what you're trying to find. So we've got this. We got a whistleblower that has been indicted, arrested, and jailed. Great job. Ukraine is demanding to join NATO. Demand might be a high, extreme word. They are insisting that they join NATO, and NATO is considering it. NATO are idiots. Joe Biden publicly announces for us and the world to hear that the Ukrainians are running out of ammo. He specified the 155 millimeter shells. These are things that are used in artillery. And he also gave the world a head up, because it wasn't enough to say that Ukraine's running out of them. But he's also told the world that we are running out of them too. And our stockpile is very low. I'm not sure if that's a good thing to tell the countries that are starting to line up against us, that we are running out of the means to defend ourselves. I would think people are kind of aware of that. I know we've been talking about it for weeks now. We've been sending a lot of stuff over to Ukraine, and it's got to be raising havoc with our own national supplies. It was also announced this week that we would be sending cluster bombs to the Ukraine. So a year or so ago, the White House, Joe Biden's White House, came out and made it quite clear that cluster bombs and the people that use them should be considered war criminals. And a year later, we are deciding that it's no longer war criminals, but it's what we have to do. And we are sending cluster bombs to the Ukraine. This has caused some static, but again, no one's going to object to what he does, obviously. I don't think I need to cover the cocaine in the White House. That's all over the news, so I'm not even going to bother with that. Some things to keep in mind. We're talking about Ukraine and war and weapons. There are weapons in development, and if you don't think there are, then you're crazy. And this, you can see this in movies, sci-fi movies, action adventure movies, where they develop biological weapons that can target specific people or ethnicities. So you could single out a genetic characteristic for, I don't know, white male Americans, and set up a bomb, a weapon that would only attack people with that genetic coding in their DNA. It sounds crazy. There was actually an episode of Stargate that this was exactly how an alien civilization conquered the worlds it wanted to take over and use. And now you say, "Oh, Stargate, but I'm telling you, a lot of times, more times than not, if we want to know what's going to happen in the future, we need just to watch our television. And the crazier the scenario, the more likely is they're going to come up with it. So, speaking of crazy scenarios, CDC, Center for Disease Control, what would have to have been once the pinnacle of people looking out for your health and welfare, uh, I believe now is been corrupted and with everyone else. The pandemic corrupted just about everything that used to be good, and now it's just part of a propaganda machine. So the CDC is now offering DIY information to men on how to chest feed, but nothing is mentioned in the CDC about the dangers to the infants that might be subjected to a man trying to chest feed them. So before the TQI plus starts screaming, I get it. It's a trans woman, and trans women are women, but they're not. And I'll tell you right now, what trans women produce in their breast, in their chest, is not breast milk. It's a liquid filled with chemicals and God only knows what hormones and everything else that we should not be putting in to an infant's system. For God's sake, we don't even recommend that women smoke and drink and do drugs while they carry a child and while they breastfeed. But yet we're going to say it's okay for a man to pump themselves up on hormones that change. Look it up yourself. I can't even continue to talk about this. And the other ultimately sick part of this is there are trans women, men that will sexually get off on their nipples being suckled or bitten. So they're using an infant as a means to get off sexually. This is disgusting. Even by my standards, and I don't have a lot of high standards, but I would think that there is a special kind of hell, and I hope it would be a hell on earth for these people that would do that to a newborn infant. Enough on that. I just can't do that anymore. Also, at this time, there are new processes being put in place, along with immigration, that will let thousands into the country. And there's a really good chance this new process is not constitutional, but no one is really talking about it. While we're talking about the kids, and we're talking about infants, and we're talking about children, Gays Against Groomers, which has been around for probably 6 months, 8 months now. They are an independent nonprofit, which is only looking to protect children from the physical and chemical castration, mastectomies, hysterectomies that are being pushed as affirming healthcare for children that want to change their identity. This is wrong on so many levels, and the fact that people that claim to love children uh, just don't see it. It's completely out there. Uh, for those of you that haven't figured it out yet, please understand nothing in this world operates the way you think it does. The government, the police, your corporations, your banks, your colleges, your schools, we are finding nothing operates the way we think it does. Up until the pandemic, we thought things were honky dory in schools, that schools were doing what they could, and that there were other reasons that the kids weren't learning to read, write, and arithmetic. But when the pandemic hit and they started bringing the classrooms into the home and parents starting to be exposed to the nonsense that goes on, that all changed. We need to be involved if possible at a local level on up and start putting our foot downs about things that are going on. Police. You look at police here in the United States. It's as much I get protect and serve, but technically, and we've talked about this before in other programs, technically, police aren't there to protect you. They're there to enforce laws. They're there to write citations. They're there to generate a tax base, a revenue base based on fines. But to protect and serve was a snappy catchphrase. But push comes to shove, police are not obligated to put their life on the line for anyone except themselves. So keep that in mind as well. And this is another strong reason for the Second Amendment, because there's going to come a day that the police aren't going to want to help or going to want to do or get in the middle of things, and they're just not going to. I'm hoping that they will, but there's no guarantee. And just so everyone here doesn't think that I am just a right-wing nut job, Republicans slip a massive foreign worker expansion into the DHS funding. Department of Homeland Security funding, there has been put into their funding package that Congress approves to massively expand foreign workers in the United States. Again, I get it. People don't want to work, whatever. But the Republicans, the Democrats, 99.9%, it's all the same coin. There's no, it's a two-headed coin, and we are constantly calling tails when someone flips that coin and it's not working out for us. The other thing that proved me right today, this week, apparently now being physically fit is a far right obsession and objective. So I think I qualify for not only not being far right, but I am probably almost as left as you can get if we're going on the physically fit scale. And again, people just look for reasons to start fights and distract and do this other bullshit. Please, you don't need to look into that one. I'm just pointing out the fact that for those that say I'm far right, I'm showing you today on this video in all my immenseness that I'm not as far right as you would think I am. Why are we, the United States, government in place, actively causing the Ukraine conflict to continue? There is evidence out there, again, get out there, start looking around, that we have almost at every turn, almost at every opportunity to get a ceasefire or a peace agreement going, we have meddled so that it wouldn't happen. We have sent dignitaries in from other nations to meddle on our behalf to let it happen. There's a reason. There's got to be a reason. And I think we know it's probably money, but look into it. We talk about the attack on Christianity. Christianity is going by the wayside and this, that, and everything else. Probably about 2 years ago, we talked about this on Let's Talk It All. And it is time, if Christianity wants to survive as a viable, accepted, realistic religion. It is time for the Vatican to release all the books, not only the ones that are in the Bible, but the ones that were excluded from the Bible. Release all the books, have them accurately, accurately and honestly translated, so we as Christians can actually see all the information for the first time in 2,000 years. So when the next pandemic, shall we say, isn't working, when more of the sheeple stand up and say no more, no mas, they will put in place not only things that are already there, but they will create new things to keep us in line. So since 2008, propaganda by our news media and our government has been legal to be used when informing the citizens. Propaganda. That's basically the government's version of story is what's right and anything else isn't. Can I draw your attention back to the Ministry of Truth they tried to pull a couple years ago that got shot down, but probably is still out there working. So propaganda is legal. That was the first thing they did. And they did that in 2008. So they did that 12, 15 years ago. So not a lot of people know this, but disorders, mental disorders, you would think there's a long, drawn out process to research and know. It's not like a disease or a vaccine. Well, of course, anything vaccines, because vaccines they just make up and give to us now too. But disorders are voted on. They're voted into existence. However many board of psychiatric providers get together, National Board of Psych, whatever it is, and they say, we think this is a disorder. This is what we see. We need to make this a disorder, and they vote on it. And if the vote's positive, we got ourselves a new disorder. Step one. Step two, there's a little thing called the Baker Act. And right now it's in, I think, 8, 9 states. But it's under different names in other areas of the country. Although New York is not part of the states that use the Baker Act. New York State has mental health laws that do basically the same thing. So basically, the Baker Act says a psychiatrist, a family member, a police officer, judge can deem an individual not mentally sound, not mentally capable of their own decisions, and may pose a danger to themselves or others, and can commit this person and basically arrest them without any real due process, other than someone saying it's almost like a red flag law. These are almost like red flag laws. So there's a disorder, a Baker Act. So now think about this. Next pandemic comes up. Far more people say bullshit. We're not taking any more vaccines. We're not social distancing. We're not wearing masks. We're not shutting down our businesses. We're going to stay open. And the World Academy of Psychiatric Professionals say, well, we've talked about this for a while and we think it's really true, is that there's this thing known as oppositional defiance disorder. Oppositional defiance disorder. And it's a real thing. It's now an official disorder. And if you are opposing the official narrative and you are defying the official narrative and do what you're told, you have this disorder, and we will commit you to a re-education facility to get treatment. Now, these are terms I'm using. They may be different. But we questioned a few years ago about all these FEMA camps that were being put up, about all these Walmarts that were being abandoned and left empty. These would make great locations for oppositional defiance disorder treatment centers. So please keep that in mind. SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, said this past week that the government cannot censor us. So basically, there was a ruling saying that, well, I take that back. It may not be SCOTUS. It may have been one of the lower courts. It may have been one of the circuit courts. But basically, there was an injunction thrown out there. I guess it wasn't SCOTUS. There was an injunction thrown out there that said the government and government agencies, and it listed them, cannot collude with big tech to censor the people of the United States. So basically, court said, based on the Constitution, you can't limit freedom of speech. And what does our government do? They are appealing that order. They're appealing that decision. They're saying, but wait, we should have the ability to censor people, and we're going to. Again, not seeing that a lot in the news, but they've appealed that ruling, that injunction, and it'll be interesting to see what happens because of it. World news, the Netherlands, Dutch government has fallen. Reports that the Dutch government has fallen. There's been a lot of protests and things going on in Netherlands, in France, in Germany. France and Germany are expected the next ones to go as far as their government being replaced. Excuse me. I think it's a positive thing that shows that the people are standing up and ousting the governments. But I will tell you, if France and Germany governments are replaced, and the EU, the European Union, is next, let me tell you, they're going to be freaking out here in this country, and you're going to see a much, much stronger push for Second Amendment being abolished. And again, the oppositional defiance disorder being made a real thing, and the ODD facilities being opened up. Just some crazy things going on right now. They're supposedly, and again, you may have to look hard to find this one. Sandstorms from Africa are on the way and should hit the coasts of New York and Florida sometime soon. I would think it would take all the sand in Africa to survive a trip across the Atlantic to America, but you never know. It could happen. So we've been talking a lot about children and children, protecting them. Australia has come out and said there is a baby drought in Australia. That there is, and it's mostly for economic reasons. It's just too expensive to have children. So a lot of Australians have stopped having children, and they're starting to see a decrease in population. And actually, if you take a big step back, you're seeing this pretty much across the world, is that there's a decrease in population. United States, if it's not bad enough that we are decreasing our population by not having babies, a lot of the ones that we decide we're going to have, we are actually going to kill them in abortion clinics. And if somehow they survive the abortion clinics, we're going to start trying to transform them into something they're not, anywhere from age newborn on up. There is a disgusting attack on children at all levels. Everything from trying to get children to be even more confused than ever, to sterilize them, to remove the reproductive organs at an early age, to abortions up to 9 months, up to when they are born and taken into the next room. There's a much bigger agenda that people are just turning a blind eye to. And it's insane. The children trafficking, I'm going to get back to that. Understand what's going on with that. We have lost 85,000 children at the border. These are children that have gone missing that we have no way to track. We didn't have any way to track them when they got here. And then once they got here, we just passed them along and we still no way to track them. These children are gone. They are either, hopefully, they are working in factories and farms somewhere. But a lot of them, I will guarantee you, a lot of them have found their way to the sex trade, to the pedophilia rings. And they will use and abuse these children because the drug lords, the criminals have figured out once you sell a pound of coke, that's it. It's a finite marketable item. A child, you can sell 10, 15, 20 times a day. 365 days a year. Probably you might get 3 years out of the child before either they need to be killed because they're so used up. But hey, we can also harvest their organs at that point because, gang raping, pedophilia, child rape just wrecks some of the organs. Lungs, heart, liver, as long as we didn't, drug them up too bad, we can still sell those things and get money for it. They are a multi-sale, multi-use commodity. I'm sure at some point someone's going to figure out how to put these on the stock exchange as a commodities market, like orange juice and pork bellies. But this is not a small thing. This is not just a one-off. This is not just a minor problem as mainstream media would have you believe. 85,000 across the border missing. There is umpteen thousand children in Ukraine gone. There is anywhere from 200 to 300,000 children gone in the United States on annual basis. We know that there is 250,000 at least that have gone missing since the pandemic from school rolls, school rosters. Just never came back. Homeschooling stopped. They didn't come back. And I don't believe anyone's followed up to find out if they're being homeschooled or if they're starring in homemade movies. There is a war against children. There's a war against women. And I want to get into that this episode. We need to be concerned. We need to say stop. I'm not saying we need to suit up and go kick in the door of what we think is a child pornography house where they're doing movies. But we need to be aware. We need to have our eyes open. We need to say, you know what? I don't know how Ted Knight can say on the news that this isn't a big deal. Why is he saying that? Ted Knight used to be a fictional reporter on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, just for reference, not related to the Knight report that we do here. It's just, again, but we can't let it distract us from all the other bullshit. All the other bullshit they're pushing. And we keep spending, this country keeps spending money that we don't have. We need to stop. We need to, as a people, get involved. We need to, as a people, come together. I cannot believe we cannot come together and say child sex trafficking is wrong. Whether it's one child or 100 billion children, It's wrong and should be stopped and should be stopped now. Okay. That's all I've got for right now for this week so far. It's Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. Um, I will keep scouring the web looking for things that need to be brought to people's attention, stuff that when I see it in one place but don't see it in a bunch of others, I get a little nervous and wonder just what we're not covering. But hey, this is Anvil, also known as the Fat Bastard, left wing fat bastard, with this information for you. And please, please, please be alert, be aware, be informed. Believe nothing you hear and half of what you see, and verify everything. Verify what I'm saying. I hope you watch this broadcast and say this guy Anvil is a fucking idiot. But you know what? I'm gonna double check to see how big of an idiot he is. And then if you find out how big an idiot I am, please email me at LTIA radio show at gmail.com. And let me see if I can bring that up for you. Give me 1 second. See if we can put this up there for you. Banners, there we go. There it is. Email us at LTIA radio show at gmail.com. Email me here. I will get the email and I will respond to you. And we can discuss this anyway, anyhow you want. If I'm wrong, point it out to me, point out the source, and hopefully get a few sources, but point out the source and we'll dig into it. So, all right, folks, I'm going to let it go at that. I'm going to end the broadcast now. I am Anvil, the man, the myth, the legend. You can find me directly on Anvil, ANVILE